The Empire stands as the largest and most powerful realm in the Old World. It is a reflection of human resilience and ingenuity in a world of constant peril and wonder. Its vast lands and provinces are as diverse as they are rich in history and culture. This grand expanse is a mosaic of landscapes, each with its own unique challenges and secrets. What follows is a collection of works by yours truly, Dr. Stefan Hoffman from the University of Nuln. In this episode, we continue our travels through the lands and provinces of the Empire, particularly the rugged and resilient province of Hochland, a land of deep forests and skilled marksmen. Join us as we journey through Hochland from the streets of its capital, Hergig, where we are supposed to deliver the letter, to the secretive glades where ancient dangers lurk. Leaving behind the fortified city of Talabheim and its lingering shadows of conflict, I began on a new leg of my journey. The road to Hochland stretched out before me, leading through the lush expanses of the Empire's heartlands towards a province known for its deep forests, skilled marksmen, and generally friendly people. As I advanced, the landscapes unfolded with a rugged beauty, characterized by dense woodlands and rolling hills. Hochland, known formerly as the Grand Barony of Hochland, stands as one of the original electoral provinces that laid the foundation of the Empire. Nestled in the north-central heart of the Old World, it shares terrain with the rugged expanse of the Middle Mountains, much like its neighbouring province Ostland. The lands within Hochland's borders are characterized by wide stretches of wild, unbridled nature. In the southern reaches of the province, dense canopies of oak and sycamore trees thrive, casting deep shadows over the forest floor, while the northern territories are dominated by towering pines and fragrant cedars. Bands of skilled lumbermen from local guilds venture into these forests, felling the ancient trees with precision, as they learn from a young age. They then meticulously trim the trunks, preparing them to be sent adrift down the rivers. These logs journey downstream, bound for the milling towns of Esk, Bergendorf, Krudenwald, and Hergig, where they will be transformed and readied for their various purposes in the hands of skilled craftsmen and builders. The culinary traditions of Hochland, particularly its renowned dish of fire-roasted venison, have found favour across the Empire's breadth. Yet, aficionados argue that this delicacy reaches the zenith of its flavour when savoured under the expansive, starlit skies of Hochland itself, where the crisp air add an unmatched depth to its taste. Or at least, so they say. At the heart of Hochland's identity are its people, loyal, courageous, and adaptable. The modern inhabitants of Hochland stand as some of the most welcoming and open-minded individuals within the Empire. Their lands serve as a vital nexus point connecting the northern and eastern territories, a role that has imbued them with a remarkable tolerance. This openness, so distinct in comparison to other provinces, is born from a history of interaction and exchange at this crossroads. This is a community that, while skilled in the art of war, prefers the bonds of friendship and understanding. As I made my way to the capital city, Hergig, I was delighted to find that unlike the sprawling metropolises or fortified capitals found elsewhere in the Empire, Hergig presented a more intimate, yet no less significant embodiment of imperial strength and culture. The architecture of Hergig reflected its surroundings and history, with buildings constructed from the timber harvested from the nearby forests. Economically, Hergig thrives on the lumber industry, thanks to the abundant forests that are carefully managed to ensure sustainability over time. It is known that the city's sawmills are among the most productive in the entire empire. Culturally, Hergig is a melting pot of traditions and customs, with festivals and celebrations throughout the year that honor both the imperial pantheon and local deities, particularly Tal and Rhea, the gods of nature. The citizens of Hergig hold a deep respect for the wilderness that surrounds them. Despite its beauty and prosperity, Hergig has not been without its challenges, standing vigilant against the looming threats that the Great Forest harbor. Marauding beasts roam its peripheries, and the ever-present spectre of chaos incursions cast a long shadow over the city's future. The citizens of Hergig, embodying the resilient spirit of Hochland, are renowned for their exceptional proficiency with the longbow, a skill deeply ingrained in their cultural identity and crucial for their survival. Indeed, Hergig's resilience was put to the ultimate test during a brutal war against the forces of chaos. The city found itself under a horrific siege that culminated in its capture, with great fires ravaging through the old quarters, leaving devastation in their wake. This event marked a dark chapter in Hergig's history, nearly leading to its total destruction. The siege underscored the relentless threat posed by chaos, but it also highlighted the indomitable spirit of Hergig's people, who, despite the odds, began the arduous process of rebuilding, determined to restore their city. Navigating the intricate web of streets that made up this charming city, I found myself at the doorstep of the recipient of Audrey's letter. The name I had been given was Friedrich, a soldier known amongst his peers for his valor and leadership. As I handed him the sealed envelope, my heart felt heavy with the responsibility of delivering Audrey's last words to her beloved. As Friedrich broke the seal and read its contents, a profound sadness washed over his features. The silence that followed was palpable, filled with unspoken grief and the weight of loss. I found myself wanting to ask about the contents of the letter, but I restrained my tongue. Yet within moments, the sorrow of the man transformed into grim resolve. Friedrich, gathering his composure, shared with me the grim news that recent reconnaissance had uncovered. There was a presence of chaos cultists near Hergig. These were not merely marauders, but agents of the very corruption that had claimed Audrey's life. His revelation echoed the horrifying experiences we had endured in Talabekland. Back there, a vile plot by cultists devoted to Nurgle was uncovered, I said. They had been poisoning the rivers, wells, and canals, tainting the water with corruption. It was a sinister effort to weaken the city from within, in preparation for a major attack. I explained how, despite the Talabeklanders' efforts to root out the evil, the main force of the cult remained elusive. I explained how in Talabheim the people were preparing their best defenses for the seemingly upcoming attack, while Friedrich listened intently. It was clear that the news of Audrey's demise and Talabekland's plight resonated with him. Friedrich's response revealed their strategy.
We will not cower behind our walls. We aim to take a different approach. Based on the reports we've gathered, we believe we have a lead on where these agents of decay are festering and where their main force could be. We will not wait for them to strike at our heart. We will take the fight to them and make them pay with their blood.
As Friedrich outlined the strategy and his company began to prepare for the impending assault, I realized my journey had led me to a pivotal moment. The preparation that followed showed the discipline and skill of Friedrich's company. Weapons were checked and rechecked, supplies were gathered, and plans were meticulously reviewed for the battle to come.
It's time for the Empire!
Hochland stands out not just for the verdant expanses of its forests or the skill of its people, but for a unique contribution to the Imperial military arsenal, the Hochland long rifle. This exceptional piece of weaponry, celebrated across the Empire, is often humorously said to be cherished by Hochlanders more dearly than their own spouses. Such jests, though crude and seldom voiced in polite company, underscore a deeper truth about the Hochlanders' valiant spirit. Adapted from the rifles used by the province's esteemed hunters, the Hochland long rifle has altered the landscape of warfare within the Empire. Its ability to strike down enemies from distances previously deemed safe has instilled a sense of fear and respect in adversaries who once underestimated the reach of Imperial sharpshooters. Despite the hefty cost of crafting such a masterpiece, these rifles are occasionally bestowed as awards in the fiercely competitive hunting contests of Talabai, given to exceptional soldiers in Hochland or sold in auctions that can go very high. In the dense, shadowed woodlands of Hochland, Friedrich's company moved with purpose. Among them, and the head of the main force, was a scout named Alaric. Renowned for his unmatched prowess in navigating the treacherous wilderness that was his homeland. It was Alaric who would prove instrumental in uncovering the lurking threat of Nurgle's forces. With a keen eye and a scent honed by years of tracking both game and foe, Alaric detected signs of passage that others might have easily overlooked. Disturbed underbrush, subtle but unnatural foulness tainting the air, and strange footprints. All these clues formed a trail that only the most skilled of scouts could follow. Alaric moved silently, tracing the path that led deeper into the forest. The further he ventured, the more pronounced the signs of the passage of Nurgle's forces had become. It was as if the very forest mourned their presence, the trees wilting and wildfire fleeing from the blight that followed in the plagued force's wake. After hours of carefully tracking, Alaric found his quarry, hidden within a glade that had been twisted by the touch of Nurgle. Cultists and marauders had made their camp. The scout observed from the shadows, taking note of their numbers and the presence of a figure that stood out among them.
They dare to live on fertile land. Let's take it!
A herald of Nurgle, commanding with a voice that seemed to curdle the air itself. The heralds serve as champions who lead Nurgle's forces with a morbid zeal, carrying out the will of their putrid deity across the lands. Far from being uniform in their grotesque forms and capabilities, the creation of these vile entities is deeply influenced by the dreaded affliction known as Nurgle's rot. The resilience of a mortal against the relentless advance of Nurgle's rot is a perverse measure of their worth in the eyes of the plague god. Those who manage to withstand the affliction's ravages for an extended period are deemed especially valuable. It is from the souls of these tenacious beings that the loathsome heralds of Nurgle are forged. With the information he needed, Alaric slipped away as silently as he had come, leaving no trace of his presence. He returned to Friedrich and his company to report. Friedrich listened intently, his strategic mind already turning Alaric's discovery into a plan of attack. With the location of Nurgle's forces revealed, they would take the fight to the enemy, the resolve hardened by the bravery of one among them who had dared to venture into the darkness and return with valuable information on the enemy. The grim silence enveloped the forested area, as Friedrich's force stood ready in their positions. I saw Hochland's finest were prepared to unleash their firepower on the followers of Nurgle. With a signal from Friedrich, a silent understanding passed among the ranks of the handgunners. In that moment, the forest's natural chorus was drowned out by the thunderous roar of gunfire. The Hochlanders unleashed a devastating barrage, their rifles barking with deadly precision. Bullets tore through the ranks of Nurgle's followers with unforgiving lethality. The air was rent with the sounds of death and confusion, the crack of rifles blending with the cries of the fallen. As Nurgle's forces tried to make sense of what was happening and tried to form up a resistance, I saw the volleys from the Hochlanders were relentless, each shot a death knell for the twisted beings that dared advance upon their lands. The discipline and training of the handgunners shone right through as they reloaded and fired with an almost mechanical rhythm. For every marauder that was cut down, the resolve of the Hochlanders only grew stronger. Yet some Chaos Marauders managed to charge the Hochlanders out of their fury and desperation. As the clash of arms echoed through the forest, an even darker turn of events unfolded. With incantations foul and ancient, the Herald of Nurgle summoned forth a dreaded contingent of plague bearers. Materializing from the miasma of decay, these demonic entities suddenly joined the fray, intensifying the horror of the conflict. Despite our fear and revulsion at the foulness before us, the Hochlanders stood their ground. The battle eventually descended into melee, the clash of steel and demon becoming a storm of violence that tested the mettle of every soldier. The plague bearers, seemingly impervious to pain, advanced with a relentless pace. Amidst the fray, Friedrich, with a leader's acuity, identified the malignant presence that orchestrated the nightmare, the Herald of Nurgle. Recognizing the pivotal moment upon which victory or defeat hinged, Friedrich rallied the men that were still shooting and supporting the other troops, directing their fire towards the mutated Herald. The handgunners adjusted their arm with unified purpose, their rifles trained on the grotesque figure, and opened fire upon it. The moment the Herald of Nurgle fell under the concentrated volley of Hochland rifle fire, the tide of battle shifted irrevocably. The Herald's demise sent shockwaves through the demonic ranks, their cohesion shattered. Their advance halted as some of them started to disintegrate, as their anchor to the realm of the living had been broken. This critical turn of events, spurred by Friedrich's tactical acumen and the indomitable spirit of his men, marked the beginning of the end for the forces of Nurgle in the region. The battle, though fierce and fraught with peril, was eventually won, thanks to the good aim of the Hochlanders and the devastating blow they had managed to deliver in the opening stages of the fight. The forces of Chaos lost many of their numbers in the opening volleys alone, and the killing of the Herald was the final blow to them. In the days that followed, the Hochlanders, along with a small force of men that arrived from Talabecland, gave relentless pursuit to the Nurgle forces that managed to flee the battle. They were tracked through the forests, rivers, caves, and glens of the province. Many cultists and marauders were caught and taken prisoner, while others had to be killed on the spot when they offered too much resistance. All in all, the days that followed marked a triumph for the men of the Empire, but they were also tainted by the corruption that still remained. Poisoned wells, dead cattle, wasted deposits of food that spread disease amongst pockets of the population were just some of the remnants of Nurgle's touch upon the land. Fields once fertile now lay fallow, awaiting purification before they could once again yield their bounty. The wells that had been tainted by the plague were sealed. New sources of water were found to sustain the people and their livestock. The tainted victory served as a somber reminder of the perpetual struggle against chaos, and at least for now, the Hochlanders could heal and restore. The taint had not only marred the landscape, but also twisted the once familiar flora and fauna into grotesque parodies of their natural selves in the entire northernmost region. Not only Hochland and Talabecland. Amidst this turmoil, the Elector Count of Ostland, the neighbouring province, acutely aware of the dire need for understanding and addressing the corruption, turned his eyes towards me, Stefan Hoffman, Doctor of Biology and Zoology. The Elector Count extended an official commission to me. As it turned out, this task was not merely academic, it was a mission of utmost importance. To compile a comprehensive study on the province's flora and fauna, distinguishing the all-natural and untouched specimens from those warped by mutation or chaos corruption. The distinction was crucial, not only for the preservation of Ostland's natural heritage, but also for the formulation of strategies to counteract the spread of corruption. I was honoured and intrigued by the complexity and the challenge presented by this commission. Thus I accepted the task with a thirst for knowledge and, I must admit, a sense of curiosity. I set out for Ostland, preparing to delve into the heart of the wilderness and ready to make a significant contribution to the fight against chaos. We thank you for joining us on this journey through the lands and provinces of the Empire, witnessing the courage of those who stand against the darkness. If you've enjoyed this tale, consider supporting us on Patreon, or sharing this video with your fellow enthusiasts and scholars alike, to help us continue exploring the old world. This is Stefan Hoffman, Doctor of Biology and Zoology of the University of Nuln, and this has been our journey so far.